back to the podcast. Jared Gibson, thank you so much for being here today, Jared. It's great to see you, bud.
Always good to see you, Carl. Thanks for having me.
Longtime friends here in Chicago, at least a couple years. I don't know if we're long time yet. When do you get to call a long time? Is it 5 years?
I think 2 years is a long time in this world. Yeah, in a remote world.
In the remote world, and we get to see each other in person sometimes, which is even better. You know, I love when we get to get downtown and actually, you know, clink coffee cups or whatever we do. Thanks for coming on. This has really been fun to watch your journey. As a quick bit of background, when we met, Jared, you had a regular job. And so it's been cool to see you get this agency, get Outworks off the ground. And we're going to talk about that today. But before we jump into that, I actually want to ask you something that I think is really cool you're doing right now. And I want to ask you how it's going and jump right into a tactical thing. So you are doing short videos on LinkedIn. And I know this because I was on one of these. You're recording like 5 to 10 minutes with somebody. You're sitting down with an industry expert or somebody, and then slicing that up and making a few short form videos on that. Tell me about your process and how that's going.
It's been fun. So I did it. The first one I didn't even mean to do. It was kind of an accident. I did it with a good friend of mine, Jen Guzman, who is kind of in the same boat that I'm in, where we were both with the same company. We left the company and we both just decided like, hey, let's just go out. We're going to do our own thing. So we're parallel timelines. And we were talking one day and I was like, all the stuff that we're talking about, like, this is like good content. Like, let's just record it one day and we'll put it out. And she's like, let's do it. So I'm like, it's going to be weird that I'm asking you the same questions. And she's like, whatever, it doesn't matter. So we jumped on a call and, you know, I had like maybe 4 or 5, you know, layup questions for her. And it's all about like our personality coming out on these interviews. I think that that's important. So Jenny's got a great personality. I mean, I would like to think that I've got a good personality, and we just bullshit. But like, she's like my sister, like I'm a brother. So we kind of like have these inside jokes. So I chopped it up. Riverside makes it super easy to chop up content. One of my co-founders, Kelly, is a UX UI. He's a designer and he put some cool templates around it. And we put a few out and it played well. Like people liked it. So I'm like, you know, I think there's something to hear. So I started reaching out to other founders and executives that were in my network, and you were one of them. You know, we have a few mutual friends, and it's been really good. It's super casual. It's super easy. There's no high pressure. Like if somebody doesn't want to talk about something, they're just not going to talk about it. They'll tell me to shut up and move on, because most of the people that I'm talking to now are friends, right? So it's also a really cool way to kind of stay in contact with your friends that are in your network. So it's been fun to do, and hopefully we keep doing it. The challenge that I'm having now is that I have all this like backlog. Like you and I have, there's probably like good 5-6 posts there. I think I posted maybe 2 so far on LinkedIn. So there's going to be days 6 months from now where I'm just going to throw one of the old ones that we shot up there. Hopefully it's still relevant, but it's been good, man. And I call it too lazy for a podcast, because I'm honestly, I've got too much stuff going on right now. I'm too lazy to start a podcast.
I was going to say, it's like basically the same premise for how this podcast and a lot of podcasts go these days is, you know, you take the long form content and you chop out some highlights and you put it on social, which I think is a great format. It's a great way to reuse content on different mediums. So it makes a lot of sense. But you're kind of like, let's not worry about doing a whole hour-long recording. I think when we did it took 10, 15 minutes, you know, it was super quick. So it was a very lightweight ask for you to ask me to jump on for 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm imagining it's less work for you to make those short clips, because you don't have to go listen through a whole hour-long episode. You're just like, Carl answered 3 questions very pointedly. I'm going to slice up those answers. That's it, right?
Yeah, it's super easy. And like I'm somewhat of a copywriter, I guess. Just as a salesperson, I think that's one of the most important traits that you can have as a salesperson. So throughout my career, I've tried to kind of perfect my writing ability. And so, but I can throw the transcript into ChatGPT and literally have it say, like, you know, find the 4 questions or 5 questions that I asked, timestamp them for me, write a quick summary of what we talked about. And then I can take that and write an actual post about it, and then go right into the video and edit that exact moment in the video, throw our frames around it, and boom, it's good to go. Yeah. It's a lot easier too. It's a lot easier than writing an actual post for LinkedIn. where you've got to think about what to write. Like it's all right there for you.
Yep. And it seems like those are doing pretty well. I mean, there's a few that, got 20-ish likes, which is kind of low for them, and others that are in the 70s. So like there's a pretty good like response to that, at least, given you're not a celebrity and you're not getting thousands of likes on things. Like it looked pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's been good. It's, there's certain times where I almost like, I just started doing this recently where I'll send somebody over a text and say like, hey, I'm going to post this tomorrow, or so be on the lookout for it, because the part of the LinkedIn algorithm in our business is knowing what the algorithm likes and what it doesn't like. And really at the end of the day, basically saying you can't game the algorithm. It's going to get you more often than not. But we do know that if you're tagging somebody in a post on LinkedIn, it's imperative that they are going in and commenting and engaging with that post. Because if you are tagging somebody and they're not in there engaging with the post right after you do it, LinkedIn's going to ding you from an impression standpoint, from a reach standpoint. So that's been important. Some of the folks that we've done it with have stronger networks than others, which is fine. For me, it's nice to get the engagement, but I'm more or so about just the impressions and consistently keeping like my brand out on LinkedIn, because my other content that I post is around what we're doing at Outworks, right? So like having that different variety and just being able to stay top of mind and be consistent with it is the most important thing for me on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about Outworks then, because this is a good segue. And I think this is a really cool idea for a company. So give me the rundown. I know it's evolved a bit, but give me what it is today, and then we'll kind of work our way backwards.
Yeah. So today we are on version 4. So we'll talk about the previous versions. We are a marketing agency that works with founders and executives to help them grow their network on LinkedIn and then create content on LinkedIn. Really, it's for founders that know that their buyers are on LinkedIn, but they're not doing anything to be out there to meet them where they are, right? I believe that we're in a different area, a different version of content today than we were pre-pandemic. Pre-pandemic was all about the company content, putting the company out there, the brand. The pandemic has really given, I think, all of us a sneak peek into the lives of these founders and executives, right? Because they're working from home. Like we saw their kids run around the background, their dogs, all this stuff. And version 2 of the content strategy, kind of the where we are today, is these founders and executives coming out from behind the company brand and putting themselves out there, right? Putting themselves out there with just text-based posts, image-based posts, video content. Video content has been insanely popular, especially with the new LinkedIn feed, the video feed. So LinkedIn's prioritizing this video content. And that builds trust. Like buyers want to know like who they're working with. And that trust transfers from the founder, the executive, over to the brand at the end of the day. So it's been a really good niche for us to jump into. And we make it super easy for our clients that don't have to think about it. Just jump on a 60-minute interview. We'll come to the table with curated questions around what their content pillars are that we help them establish, and do top, middle, bottom of funnel questions. And they knock them out. And then we do all the work behind the scenes and cutting it up and creating that content for them.
I love it. I mean, this is such a good idea as far as, one of the common problems I hear from founders is I would love to do more social content, but I just don't have time. Right. And that it seems like Outworks is basically solving that problem, and then also optimizing content, because likely if they did it themselves, they would not have the same level of sophistication that you guys do, right?
Yeah, the optimization is huge. Like we want to make sure that like our KPIs are hitting, like the impressions are going up, the impressions with the right people are going up. We also set some basic automations around network growth with ICP. So we want to make sure that we're growing their network with the people that we want to see that content. Obviously the engagement, likes, comments is important. Those are all, everything there is kind of the leading indicators. The lagging indicators are we having conversations? Like, are we having conversations offline? And that takes time, right? It takes time, consistency to build up that demand. But the goal and everything that we do is ultimately to turn our clients' LinkedIn into an inbound lead channel.
Right. Another channel. Yep. And one that's like repeatable and predictable. I think that's what people struggle with on social media a lot, is building that repeatability or predictability. They often are like, well, I don't know, every now and then, something I write kind of goes mini viral and I get a couple inbounds from it. But like, can we make it a drumbeat of every week there's something there that could be good and could take off? And, that's going to just increase your hit chance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some stuff that I post that are like, this is going to be great, and it turns to shit.
Oh, totally.
And there's other stuff that I'm like, this is going to be so bad. And then you post it and it's like, I don't know who liked that, but whatever. Okay.
I know. I feel the same way about, my posts. And sometimes just a simple rewording of something changes the way that it hits with people and the way it takes off. And I don't know if that's timing. I don't know if it's just luck. Whatever. I mean, that's part of the social media gods up there, smiling on us or not, right? So you have a unique skill set and background that I imagine drew you to this. Talk to me a little bit about that, because you were in sales and but like you said, you know content and copywriting. How did you get into this business with your partners?
Story is background. I've been in sales for 20 years almost now. And I was road warrior sales, like started with pound and dials, 100 plus a day. And then, was on the road from there, was on the road meeting with CFOs, driving all over Kingdom Come, in Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Illinois, eventually Wisconsin. Like it's just a lot of driving. So I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people over the years, and sales has always been something like I've just really loved doing. Because I'm very competitive, and I think it's that competitive nature of like, I'm going to figure out a way to make this happen. Right. So the sales aspect has been great. And I was a VP of sales for one of my co-founders' companies, Brandon, and Kelly was on Brandon's team at that point in time with a company called Snap Mobile. And so met with those, like worked with those guys, like loved them to death. Like Brandon has started and exited a few companies, few agencies in the past. We had a private equity group above us that basically took me from Brandon's team and put me over to this other company to run their marketing, right? Their marketing strategy. They had great boots on the ground sales. They had no air support for the sales. Their website sucked. They needed a complete revamp, and they needed a system in place that would help them generate leads, right? Because there was nothing coming in. It was a big step for me because I had never been in marketing. For me, that was like, dude, I got to go to the dark side and like be a marketing person at this point. But I hired an agency that was incredible with teaching me the ropes. And they're the agency that kind of helped build the website, but I was kind of the liaison between the agency and then the company. And, learned a ton in the 3.5 years that I was there, built an award-winning website, generated leads, did everything that I wanted to do, but was still able to keep my toe dipped in the sales pond. That was one of the conditions that I said, I'll jump over and I'll do this, but I want to be able to still be involved with sales. And that alone, that little piece that I was like, that caveat where I'm like, I still want to do some sales, is why I'm sitting in this seat today. Because you and I would not have met had I not done that caveat, right? Because we met through EO. And I'm like, I like to be out and meeting with people. So I kind of ran with the EO piece of it and surrounded myself with all these entrepreneurs that really rubbed off on me, like you included. And eventually the company I was with got acquired. The acquisition was, we'll keep this nice. The acquisition was less than ideal, but it gave me the opportunity to not pout and bitch about like, oh, I don't like this. It gave me the opportunity to do something I've always wanted to do, and that was start my own business. And I went back to Brandon and Kelly, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you guys think? And we're all obsessed with growth marketing at the end of the day. Like, what is the next technology? What is the next system that we can put in place to help generate these conversations? And being around a lot of EOers, we've grown our business through our network, but there's other things that we're just not salespeople. Like a lot of people, they're not, founders aren't sales, right? So what systems can we help them with that can generate additional conversations outside of just their network? And Brandon and Kelly were like, let's do it. There's an opportunity here. We didn't know exactly what we were going to be at the time, because we started as just email lead gen, if you remember that. back when I first told you, I'm like, yeah, I'm starting my own business. Yeah, email lead gen. And it's like, okay, that is a very loud crowd, annoying market. So we did that a little bit, brought in some friends and families, clients, learned some stuff, knew we wanted to do something with LinkedIn, jumped to LinkedIn, but we did more outreach on LinkedIn as well and kind of cross-channel it with email. Did fine there, but we kept growing our clients' networks, and they kept saying, like, we kept telling them, like, you guys have got to start posting content. Like, we're growing your network. We're like, you guys are getting in front of the right people, but you're not doing anything. And we had a few of our clients that just kept saying, like, can you just do this for me? Like, I don't have time to do this. And that was where the light bulb kind of went off. And it's like, why don't we just start doing this? And that's where it's taken off.
But I love that this is a great point that I'll call attention to, is like a lot of entrepreneurs, you get started, you get your first idea for business, you think it's going to be one thing, and then customers keep saying, hey, could you just do this, like over here? It's not exactly what you do. And if you hear that enough times, eventually you're banging your head trying to get the first idea going. It's not working. And then all of a sudden everybody's asking you to do thing B. Just go to plan B, like, especially when you're early on, like, you can change, you can be anything you want. So it's like, it's fantastic advice to just like be open-minded to the market, or open to the opportunity, rather than just pursuing your vision like in this like tightly narrow defined way or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, our vision's important, but at the end of the day, our vision doesn't mean shit if it's not aligned with what our end consumer wants and needs.
Now, EO, and I've talked about this some on the podcast, and I talk about it a lot when you talk to me in person. So Entrepreneurs Organization, for those who don't know that are listening, it's essentially a professional group for small business owners. They've got chapters all over the world. And so it's a good networking opportunity. You sometimes, like Jared's saying, you might meet customers or advisors or mentors. You also just get to share your experiences with other entrepreneurs. So that was a group that kind of got you exposed to entrepreneurship. But like, you had a good job, right, Jared? I mean, you could have gotten another good sales job. Like, I'm imagining you're a guy who's pulling down 6 figures easy. Why start your own thing and go down to zero? Because we all know that's where it starts.
I mean, that's like the $1 million question. I don't know what I was thinking. So that was the story there is that I was moonlighting as an entrepreneur when I first started Outworks, right? And it was like, I told my wife, I'm like, I really want to do my own thing. And she was very supportive. She's like, yeah, go with it, like whatever. And luckily for me, she's successful, like in her own right with her job. But we just bought this house up in the burbs, the North Shore of Chicago. I got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old at the time. I think it was 4 and 6. So young family. And I'm moonlighting as an entrepreneur, but I still have the steady paycheck coming in. Right. But the steady paycheck that was coming in, like, I would try to schedule calls with prospects for Outworks during the day. And then I would get a call thrown on my calendar, on my other calendar. I had 2 separate calendars, and it would completely block off. And I'd be like, oh man, I gotta reschedule the call for Outworks. Or I just got to say, no, I'm not getting on this call for my day job, all this stuff. Like, completely half-assing the day job, right? My heart and everything was into Outworks at the time. So eventually I'm sitting there, and Brandon and Kelly were already doing their own stuff on, like, they were like humming on Outworks, building the behind the scenes systems, the marketing, building the website. And somebody posted on LinkedIn, and it's hanging up right here next to it. And it said, there's never a perfect time to start anyway. And that was it. That was like, all right, I'm going to do this full time. And I have no clue what the hell I was thinking. Like honestly, going from what I was making to making zero and kind of starting from scratch. Like, I was trying to pick up like side gigs to try to, feed some money into like the family funnel. But at the end of the day, it comes down to my wife, like, and how, like, I am spoiled. I'm married up, like anything that you can imagine. She has been like the rock in this entire thing. And listen, I'm not back to making what I was making before or what I ultimately want to make, but I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel based on the trajectory that we're seeing right now. And she sees it, she knows it. I mean, there were some early days where I was like, she's like, or we both were like, at what point do we say you need to go out and do something different, right? And I don't think we're necessarily out of that water yet. And maybe we are. Maybe I'm just like, maybe it's just me being paranoid. But eventually I think we'll get to the point where, I feel really good, really, really good about it. I feel good right now, but I don't feel really, really good yet. And I don't know if that'll ever come, because we're always going to want to keep growing and building.
I don't know if it ever comes either all the time. I think for me, at least, I've had flashes where I'm like moments in time where I'm like, man, things are good. Things are just humming. I'm making money and the businesses are running without too much intervention. Like, it's fucking fantastic. Like, it happens for sure. But then it is immediately preceded by a month where I'm like, oh shit, are we going to make payroll? Like, who am I letting go? Like, it's never a like, the challenge is it's never one thing forever. It's like constantly evolving, because even if your business is fairly steady state and the team is good and not moving, the market around you is changing constantly, and you can't just sit on your hands and be like, passive income, this is a dream. It just doesn't happen in small business. And so I think there is a level of security that comes with, like, having some more time on your belt for sure. Like, I remember at your stage being a year in, this was not that long ago, like having a lot of sleepless nights over, are we going to make it to a size where I can hire those first people, or I could step away from this thing I really hate to do, or whatever. And that has happened. But that said, I still have days where I'm like, like adding the numbers up, and I'm like, is it gonna happen this month, or are we gonna be behind? Like, yeah, it does, man.
One of the things, and I feel that all the time. But one of the things that the work that we put into getting to that point, and this is, I don't know, I don't want to jinx anything, but I feel like when we're in that mindset where it's like, oh, I'm losing sleep, like, can we make payroll, all this stuff, the work, everything that we've done prior to that exact moment shows up at the right time. Meaning, like, you're losing sleep and you can't think, and all of a sudden, like, the next day you get 2 verbals from 2 new clients via email that you've been putting the work in on. Like, that stuff just has a funny way of, like, showing up when you need it the most. So it's kind of like, never stop the grind. Like you're always going to grind through it. And when, like, it's November and December's around the corner of the holiday season, like, don't let your foot off the brake. That's the time to continue to pound, right? To continue to have conversations, because you don't want January, February, and March to be slow months, because you kind of slow down in November and December because of the holiday season, right? Right? You want to continue to keep moving, and that stuff all, like I said, shows up.
I think one of the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs make at the early days of a service business is they build up their pipeline and they get busy. And then as soon as they're busy, they spend 100% of their time on client fulfillment and 0% prospecting the next round of people. And even if you have a high retention business, I imagine yours is fairly high retention. We do content, so it's fairly high retention. That said, things can happen. And all of a sudden you have a quarter of your clients move on or cut budget or whatever. And you are then scrambling to get things back to, like, going again. And, pipeline takes time to build. So I think, kudos to you for seeing that. And I think maybe your experience in sales is probably what guided you there. But like, that's something just to watch out for. It's like, don't let yourself just take the foot off the gas because it looks like we're busy for the next few months. Like, that's not a good excuse. Like, it's got to keep going.
I'm a little bit spoiled too here, because I've got 2 co-founders that handle a lot of that stuff, right? So for me, it's like, yes, I'm technically, I guess, the face of the company, because I'm putting myself out there on LinkedIn. I am running everything that has to do with sales for the company. So I can keep my foot down on that pedal at all times. So and then when I need to jump in, which is a lot, to help, especially Kelly, out with a lot of the client work, I'm happy to do that. Like, I'll carve out time to help him out with that. But Brandon and Kelly both know, like, Jared, we want you head down focused on sales, like building that pipeline up.
Yeah, partners. That's a huge advantage too, and there's challenges to it, I imagine, as well. We'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about getting customers, because this is something where most agencies, in my experience, basically live their lives on referrals and the founders network. I imagine you guys started that way. Are you moving beyond that now? Are you finding other channels where you're intentionally getting customers, or is it still mostly network driven, referral driven, and kind of like your internal, like your past experience?
I'd say it's more of that still today. It's cool to see, like, initially it was just my first degree network that were becoming clients. And slowly you started to see like my second degree network started to become clients, right? And then third degree, like
right, your clients start referring other clients and like people that, yeah, exactly. Yep.
so the network's been huge for us. And it took years for me to build up this network, right? And I pride myself on the network that I build. I love networking with people. I love meeting new people. It's important to me. I like getting out and about and like just kind of being who I am around people. And I think that that's at least what I think would attract people to wanting to work with me. We have absolutely like inbounds coming in right now from LinkedIn from people that I've never met that aren't part of any network. They're seeing the content that I'm putting out. So the content does work. Like I'm living proof of it. Like I'll wake up some days and I'll see 2 meetings on my calendar that weren't on my calendar, before I went to bed. It's with people that found us. I always ask them how they found us. We build out a pretty decent partner network as well. Like where we're partnering with different agencies, VCs and private equity has been a good referral source for us. They're bringing us into their portcos to work with their founders. I was on LinkedIn last night. I was on LinkedIn last night and a guy made a video and he literally said, yeah, I'm talking to a company called Outworks tomorrow about some of the work that they're doing. The guy's like out in LA and he works, it looks like they do a bunch of design and video content for Netflix. I'm like, okay, like this is cool. So it's like little things like that like, I don't want to say like, oh yeah, you made it. Like, no, we haven't, but it's still cool to see that stuff. Like this guy's talking about our company. I've never met him before.
Yeah. Within the first year, getting outside of your just immediate network is a huge, like, I think you're doing really, I mean, to me, in my experience, again, like I have limited experience, but I've probably looked at 50 to 100 agencies in the last couple of years for acquisitions. And almost always those companies that are in, those early stages or in their first 5 years, all they have is internal first person referrals, basically first, what do we call that? Like first degree network type effects. And so I think the fact that you guys are starting to see some of that balloon out already is great. Is there anything that hasn't worked? Have you tried any marketing hacks or tactics or things that you thought this is going to blow up? This is it. Specifically that like, nope, didn't work for us. Don't know why, but there it is.
I don't know if it necessarily didn't work or I was just too impatient with it, where I just pulled the plug on it too early. There's certain things with cold outbound with messaging where I tried video for a little bit, like personalized video. And I quickly saw and honestly felt this because I would get personal videos from people and it's a pain in the ass. Like I don't want to click on a link and have to sit and watch a video, but I was doing that and I realized like, this is annoying. I'm like, oh shit, I do this. Like, okay, so I'm going to pull the plug on this one. Like, it's just not. So I tried different. I tried voice notes on LinkedIn. And also another pain in the ass. Like I'd rather just read something short, sweet, to the point. So I tried that, pulled the plug on it. We tried working with a bunch of cold outbound using Clay. And we got some good responses back from that and had some good conversations and brought in a few clients from it. But it was a kind of a pain in the ass to set up. And Clay while it's an amazing tool, I don't think it's all the way there yet. There's too many margins of error that are within the kind of the AI that they put in.
It's an AI generated email sending tool, I assume.
Yeah. They pull, basically it's a scraping tool that can scrape like a LinkedIn profile and we can give it to like, hey, saw that you just hired Mike for this role, so and there's just too many errors there, but it worked a little bit, but it was time consuming to set a lot of it up. I'm sure at some point we'll probably go back to it. And I think we've all done networking groups that have just been complete duds, right? Like I've gone to events where I'm like, it's an all day event and I'm like, what am I doing? These are not my buyers that are in this room. So I kind of scrapped a lot of the networking groups and I started surrounding myself with more groups that are just people looking to build relationships with others. right? Where it's not about going and having a conversation about what you do for your job. It is going in and like, these are some cool people I have a lot in common with, and we can just shoot the shit and talk about Netflix shows. And like, I'm going to like this person already because like we just gel well together. Like that to me is like, if I can build relationships that way, and then obviously we'll check out our LinkedIn profiles, and eventually it'll turn like, maybe we'll have a conversation about, what they're doing, some of the success they're having. That's how, for me, you build trust and can grow your network with potential clients or really good referral partners.
So Jared, let's talk about the service that you guys deliver. So as it is today, it's now, I'm gonna summarize, and you can tell me how I'm wrong, because I like to see what I've learned so far, test my own comprehension. So I'm assuming you're doing a mix. So you're going to interview the CEO or founder of a company, and you're going to do a mix of ghostwriting and clipping up that video and maybe some image posts as well. And you're going to kind of build a LinkedIn queue for them, or keep that updated, as well as then also making relevant connection requests to people who are potential buyers. Is that a fair summarization?
Yeah, I think that's good. We kind of break it down into 4 buckets. The first one is, every one of our engagements starts with a profile audit. So we want to make sure that their LinkedIn profile is set up for success, right? The banner image, the headshot, the about section, the featured section, all the hidden CTAs, the clickable links that LinkedIn gives you. Like, we want to make sure that those are out and exposed. So when people come back to your LinkedIn page, they know exactly how you can help them solve a problem that they have, right? So the goal is to get people back to your LinkedIn page. So we do a profile audit. We help our clients establish what their content pillars are. So what are we going to write about? Like, there's got to be a strategy behind this, or you're just throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. So like for me, for example, my content pillars, what I write about are LinkedIn strategy, sales and marketing, entrepreneurship, and leadership. That's what I write about. And then I layer in my personality on top of that, right? So we help our clients establish what these content pillars are. And then from there, so that's all at the beginning of the relationship. But then we also want to know who your ideal clients are. Like, who are you trying to speak to? Like, if you're on stage and you've got the mic, like, who do you want to be in that room? So we want to understand like the personas within the client company, or the companies that they're going after. So, hey, we want to talk to founders in the health tech space that have, raised A and B rounds of funding, right? Great. We'll make lists of those people. And then we'll just set some basic automations around connecting with those people. Understanding that in 2024, a blank connection request, the acceptance rate is not as high as it was 10 years ago, right? We get that. But if we can still, connect with, 10, 15 people a week that are within your ICP, that's big, because over time, we're going to continue to build your network. And then we set some basic, trigger-based messaging, profile views. Hey, so you checked out the profile. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Like, just really quick conversation starters, nothing salesy that we're trying to kind of jam 4 paragraphs of pitching down somebody's throat. Like, I think that we all know that shit just does not work anymore, and it's too loud anyway. But the goal is to grow their network, get people within their network. And then from there, we conduct these 60-minute interviews each month that are really podcast style, like they're meant to mimic a podcast. And we'll come to the table ahead of time. We'll send over curated questions that are based on their pillars, top, middle, bottom of funnel, like we talked about. And, we'll ask them the questions, super casual, laid back interview style. They'll answer. We'll take all that content back and we'll send it to our team of writers, designers, and we'll chop it up. We'll say, if we're doing 12 posts a month for them, we'll get 4 or 5, 30, 90-second good clips that we'll put a good company branded template around. We'll do designs, graphics, carousels. We'll build for them with accompanying text, or we'll just do text-based posts. And the formatting is algorithm friendly, so we know how to write for LinkedIn. So come up with the content. So we need 60 minutes from them, approval from them on the posts. We use Notion as our project management system. So they go in, approve it, looks good, ready for the post. We set all the posts up, schedule them out, so they don't have to worry about it. They know when the posts are going out, so they're ready to engage. Again, that's something that we have to drill down with our clients, that if we're going to be posting for you, like, you have to go in and engage with people that are commenting. Like, from an algorithm standpoint, like, engagement is key for more impressions to show. So we work with them there, and then we do another interview next month, and it's the same thing. And for us, it's all about being consistent with content, right? You may start slow, but like, let's build this up and get some momentum. And then we also do LinkedIn ads. So we do thought leader ads. So once we've seen what some of the content, the engagement and the impressions on the content, what works, what didn't, we'll take a certain amount of that content and build lists of people that they may not be connected to, and basically boost those posts to stay top of mind with that ICP, and just pepper them. So whenever they log in, we're paying basically to show up on their feed. So they're going to see that content. And, you know, a lot of those people are ready to talk today. So there may be quick reaches out and, you know, quick conversations from that. So those are the 4 buckets. So profile audit, network growth, content, and then ads is what we're doing.
So I love how systematized that is, and you've got a good like way of laying it out. It seems pretty repeatable. I mean, you know, there's some skill involved, but like it isn't rocket science either, and you're not reinventing the wheel on every single new client. How much of that work are you guys still having to do yourselves as founders, or you've started to hire people? Because I imagine there's pieces of this you've probably started to hire out, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say that I always say this to our clients and our people that I'm talking to, like Kelly is our secret weapon. Like our clients absolutely love working with him. And he's kind of the interface between like Outworks and our clients. He's conducting the interviews. He's inputting everything into the system. He's sending out the information to the team of like what we need. And we're hiring account coordinator roles right now to help take some of that away from him. That can go into what we use Monday as our kind of behind the scenes project management system, that Notion. We're transferring a lot from Notion over to Monday. But we've got a team of now, because at the beginning we were doing, Kelly's a designer, so he was doing all the designs. Brandon is an engineer, developer, you know, self-taught coder. Like, so he was setting up all the integrations and the technology, and then I'm sales and marketing. So we were all doing like the copywriting, the design work, like everything. And then we realized like we're growing at a clip where like we need to bring in talent. Like we need to bring in people that are better at this than we are. And that's what we did. So we've got, you know, contract workers. I think we're about 10 employees now, a mix of designers and writers right now. So it's good. And we're going to keep growing.
That's fantastic. I mean, again, kudos to you, Jared. Like you're already splitting out that work from the founders when you're this early on, which is great because it gives you guys the time to focus on the higher level stuff and the most high leverage things that you can do, which again, one of those other pitfalls I think a lot of early stage agencies really fall into is like founders thinking, I'm the only one who's able to do this at the level that my clients demand, you know, and that's just not true. No agency grows that way. So
one of the things that, again, like I'm fortunate to have Brandon and Kelly. Like I'll keep talking those guys up. Like Brandon has been here. He's done that, right? He started successful agencies. So he is able to calm me down who's never done it before. So if I feel like I'm about ready to step on a landmine and I'm freaking out because I'm looking down at it, like he'll be able to kind of move me off of it and be like, dude, this is all just part of it. Like, don't worry about it. So he's been great. And then Kelly is very system focused, so the complete opposite of me, like processes. Like he's all about processes, which is not my strong point. So Kelly's really good about keeping us on process. So having those guys in like has been great. Brandon said that any successful business he's ever started, there's been a hacker, a hipster, and a hustler, right? Which is, I thought that was funny. Like, so I'm the hustler, Kelly's the hipster, Brandon's the hacker when it comes down to it.
I love it. Yeah, I think this is something. Let's talk about partners a bit because, you know, one of the things we've talked about before is that I would argue that 90% or more of like entrepreneurial success is really just the mental stability to keep doing it and to stick with the plan or know when to change it. And that is very, very hard when things are scary, you know, and then you've got this like dark tunnel ahead of you that you're going through. Because like at the end of the day, again, I'm going to go back to this, like tactics are out there. There's all these books behind me. There's 1,000 other entrepreneurial books you can read that have step-by-step, play-by-play, like ways to build a business, and they're all technically correct. That is not hard. What is hard is sticking with a plan and being strategic about how you update that plan as reality hits you and not getting lost in the fear. And again, partners, coming back to the point here, partners can be really helpful in mitigating that fear. I find that I just got a partner a year ago or so when I acquired a business, and I was solo before that. It was a huge lift to have a partner who I can share the ups and downs with, and we sort of level each other out. When one of us is high, the other is maybe, or one of us is low, the other one is high, and pull each other up. It's really great. It sounds like you found that. So far, so good, right? Give me your thoughts so far on this. Like, going into it with two partners, it also has a flip side, right? Like, how did you think about that?
Yeah. So obviously the flip side it's that we're not making as much as we would if we were just doing this on our own, right? I mean, that's the easiest one right there, right? But I think the benefit is one of the many benefits is that I may come to the table with an idea, and we all know each other well enough at this point that I may come to the table with an idea about a potential shift or an add-on to our services that, hey, we should do this or whatever. And they're both fine with being like, dude, that's like, shut up. Like, that's dumb. Like, look at where we are right now. That's like 5 years down the road, maybe. Right. And it's like, yeah, you're right. That's a good call. Good call. Like, kind of we can check each other. And having three, it's like majority rules, right? Which is good. Like, so if like Brandon comes and he says something and like, like Kelly and I we push back on a little bit, like he gets it. It's just like, yeah, you're right. Okay, we'll talk about that later. And the other thing too is I definitely come to the table with those guys with like visions of this like grandiose thing that I want to do with the company. And they're like, dude, we're still trying to figure out like this. Like, what are you talking about?
Like let's pay ourselves a good salary first, Jared. Then we'll figure that out, right?
Yeah. So it's good to kind of have those guys, all three of us really being able to kind of check each other when it needs to happen. And then I think for me, at least, the other aspect of this is that I talked about this earlier, but it's so important to have a network like you, like other people in my network that have been there, right? That know what's around the next turn. Like, cause I have no clue what's coming around the next turn. So when I can reach out and I can have conversations with you and other people that have been there, it's huge. Cause I'm just like everybody else. Like, I have imposter syndrome. I create false narratives in my head. And it's like, if I didn't have the support system that I have, there's no chance that I'd still be doing this. I'd be like, oh, fuck this. I'm going to go get another high paying job and I'll be fine doing that and working for somebody else. But it's all about, with you guys, it's like, just stay the course. This is all part of the game. Just keep going.
I can't agree with you enough on that, Jared. Like, I remember this from the earliest days of going from, I was the first employee, so I was pretty close to entrepreneurs, but like going from that to actually starting my own company, very big leap. And I remember like intentionally from day one thinking, I've got to build a network who supports me and I can go to when I have these like doubts and fears, because I just knew that mental thing was going to be so important. I thought it just for me, and I think now I realize it's for everybody, and that's like kind of one of these universal things that probably just always has to be the case. It's actually something that I was going to ask you about too. Like you've always been a good networker. Are your partners like also strong in that networking aspect, or is that kind of the thing you bring uniquely and they, are a little more reserved or not quite as out there as you? Like, how do you guys think about that?
If they were here, they'd tell you like they're not networkers. Like they're both great, like great personalities. Like everybody that talks to them loves them. But I think Brandon, just because of his previous agency like life that he had in Chicago, like he's got a decent network, but more in like the dev space in Chicago. Like we have like mutual, like, Don and Brandon were agency founders together back in the day. So like that network that like you and Don and Brandon have are really hardcore in the dev space, agency space. But for the most part, the network, we've got a few clients that Brandon's brought in, but for the most part, it's been my network.
All right, cool. Well, Jared, if we come back in a year, I want to know what you guys hope you will have accomplished or where you hope you'll be. Do you have like kind of that waypoint of a year out set right now?
I mean, the smart answer should be yes. I absolutely have a year, 3-year, 5-year plan. I think for us, we have a goal of what we want to hit revenue wise at the end of this year. We have somewhat of a predictable revenue system right now in place. Again, this is the benefit of having somebody like Brandon on the team that's set all this stuff up in the past. And we've got some lofty goals of where we want to be. I think that next year, if we revisit this, like we should have a decent sized team at that point in time, some full-time employees, hopefully. Yeah, man, I wish I had a better answer to that. Like, I really should have a better answer. Like, for us right now, it's all about revenue. How, like, where do we want to be from a revenue standpoint? And then, like, how many employees should we have at that point in time? And you know what? The other thing too is that we're probably going to have new offerings. Like, we're already talking about like upping our video game, like bringing in, like, we're at this level of creating video content. Well, we're getting our clients now asking us for this level of video content, right? So I'm sure at that point in time, like, we'll have upped that. Like, and hopefully our systems, our internal systems, now that we're switching over from Notion to Monday, will be just absolutely locked in, and we'll have SOPs across the board for everything. And we'll listen, this is all pipe dream. There's no, like, a lot of this stuff, like, it's never going to be perfect, but like, it would be nice if it was closer to perfect than what it is now.
There's a lot of opportunity there to see and to get to move towards, right? So you've got some ideas of that. But I think I felt like this in the first couple of years. I had a hard time setting realistic, like, goals or whatever. It was more about, like, let's survive, and then we'll go figure out strategically what we need to become. And it definitely is easier once you're kind of able to step back a tad, and you've kind of got a history of a year's worth of operating or 2 years worth of operating. And you can kind of say, okay, now we know what incremental improvement looks like. Whereas early on, you're just like, which services do we have to offer? What combination of services to make this thing, like, critical mass hit and just take off, right? And I think you guys are still in that phase, understandably so.
Early on, when I had no clue, I mean, I still have no clue what the hell I'm doing, right? But early on, I really had no clue what was going on. And when I would get somebody to ask us, like, do you guys do this? Like, I would always go back to the Brandon and Kelly and be like, hey, is this something we want to do? Like, Brandon's answer, I'll never forget this. And I don't know if we can I don't think we do this anymore, but we did it all the time. Yeah, sure. Whatever. We'll figure it out. Like, that was literally it. Yeah, sure. Whatever. We'll figure it out. And that's kind of like how we just continue to grow, because we figured it out. But now we're more process driven than we were back then, which is a good thing. Back then, like a little over a year ago.
Yeah, I found this with both the companies that we run, like, in the early days, and then occasionally when I'll get looped in to do something, I'll go into what I like to call, like, founder mode, where I'll kind of make up something new to pitch to somebody. I just did this yesterday. I was on a sales call. It was a returning client who I already had a relationship with. I kind of knew enough about their business, and I pitched them on this new service that we don't yet offer, but now I'm going to tell the team we do. And I think that's like one of those, it's a fun, I do it because it's fun, and it is like where I'm strong, right? Like, I kind of have this classification system of, there's people who are pioneers and there's people who are farmers. Farmers like to take the same field every year and improve it by 5-10%. That's great. I want my, like, day-to-day team to be farmers, but I want to have a couple pioneers, myself included, who are going to be out on the edges saying, what's next? What do we do next? What's the next big opportunity? Where's another 100 million, opportunity in this market? And so anyway, like, knowing yourself as a founder, it's like, it's great to surround yourself with people who have the discipline to just improve by a few, percentage points on the existing things you do. But then don't lose sight of the fact that you're the strategic visionary who's got to go find that next $1 million opportunity at some point, and, like, if you don't do that, you're just going to be, like, kind of limping along. You've really got to, like, occasionally take a big hit. So it's like, there's a balance there, and every company's trying to find it. I'm still trying to find it. I feel like sometimes I fuck my team up by, like, throwing them things that they didn't expect. And so I think it's a strength and a weakness, but
that's good.
It's good though.
It's good. It's fine. They're farmers. They can deal with it.
Right. Yeah. Most of them are farmers, and that's great. They love, they love the steady work and good paychecks, right? That's why they have jobs. Okay. Last question for you, Jared. I know we've talked a little bit about books and reading. Read any good books lately, business or otherwise, that you recommend to people or want to recommend to me?
I'll always plug my favorite book, which is Obstacle is the Way. Always number one book that I'll plug. So the one that I'm reading / listening to right now is the Dave Gerhardt book, Founder Brand. I probably should have read that a long time ago.
I have not read that one, but yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's basically everything that we're kind of doing for our clients. Dave Gerhardt, who is one of the pioneers of putting out this founder-led content. So that's one. And then I don't know. I've got I really want to read the Bill Walsh book. If he's former 49ers coach. I love reading sports books and sports analogy books. Listening to. Big listener of books.
I am too. I'm about 50-50 on listening versus actually reading. And most of my reading's on the Kindle too, because I do it before bed and it's just more convenient than having a light on. But yeah, good stuff. Yeah, thanks for the recommendations. I will put those in my list because I'm always looking for more stuff. Even though my backlog is impossibly long and I'm never going to get to it and I feel bad about it sometimes, I just keep tossing stuff.
That's fine. Just tell everybody, yeah, I'm going to put that one on my list. No, you'll never read it.
I know. It's so hard. Well, thanks for coming on, Jared. This was really fun. As always, I love catching up. And we're definitely going to catch up with you again in another year because I think this thing has got some legs and you guys have made so much progress in this first year. I'm really excited to see where it goes. Tell people where they can find out more about you or connect with you and Outworks.
Appreciate that. So anybody can email me. My email address is jared@outworks.io. LinkedIn, obviously, always connect on LinkedIn. And then our website is outworks.io as well.
Cool. Thanks, Jared. Have a great day.
Yep. Always good talking to you, Carl. See you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Retain Trust. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up and subscribe on YouTube. It takes 2 seconds and it helps others find out about the show. And if you have questions or suggestions for a future episode, leave a comment. See you next time.